Yes. You know, for some of you, this is really a challenge, right? You're sequestered in your homes. You can't go to the beach. You can't go to the mountains to picnic. You can't really do much of anything but go out there and do a walk once in a while, maybe a run if you're an athlete, but pretty much you're sequestered right now. So, I know that in my own home with my wife, in my we have a couple grandchildren that live with us, that things at first were a little difficult with everybody being home, but now things has opened up. It's gotten much, much better. We're at a time when people are definitely having a hard time distinguishing between truth and fiction. And it's important, I believe, now to consider every individual's truth. This isn't a time to judge what's right, what's wrong about everything, because I see that on social media. No matter what somebody seems to post, there's another opinion that is just the opposite. This is the time to have compassion for each person's truth and understand where their heart lies. It's a time to make room for understanding. It's a time to make room for some different points of view. And I say that with a lot of reverence, because I know for some of you, it's very difficult to listen to other people's quote truth. But what I want to say is that this is a time where we should be questioning everything. Years ago, I wrote a book, my first book that ever came out. It was called Ask and You Will Succeed. And there's 1,001 extraordinary questions to create life changing results. I wrote that book because the times in my life that I thought, wow, I really need to question what's going on. I need to really look at what's happening in my world and change it, right? So think about it this way. Your greatest thinking has got you right where you are. And your greatest thinking will keep you right where you are if you don't change it. So how do we change our thinking? Well, the first thing we have to do is we have to be open up our mind to allow something new to come in. There's something called cognitive dissonance, right? Cognitive, big, my beliefs that are no longer working or are no true. Then this show will resonate with you. And I think you'll be able to see things that you've never been able to see before, and know things that you've never been able to know before, and probably do things that were up until this point impossible for you to do. I have found that a lot of people right now are in fear. And what does fear do for us? It shuts down our mind. We want to blame other people for our problems. It generally focuses us outside of ourselves. But what we really need to be is focusing inside ourselves right now. So fear will shut you down. And I'm not telling you not to be cautious, though. I do believe that we need to be cautious about not learning and growing at this time. We need to be cautious about taking this time to uh, overindulge, or just to think that it's okay. I can put massive amounts of sugar in my body, or fat, or carbs, and everything's going to be okay. Well, you're probably going to wake up when this thing's over, and all of a sudden you're going to have gained 10 pounds or 15 pounds, or feel lethargic. Your mind's not going to work right. So it's probably good to be cautious of that. I also believe it's good to have caution around not tuning into whatever your spiritual path is. I think you need to have caution around that. And you also need to have caution around not having a spiritual path at all. So I think we need to really, I won't go much into detail with him, but he was a stuntman for Tom Hanks. He had been a stuntman for several years. And I asked him about fear, and he said to me, well, let me tell you a story about how I use fear. And I said, sure. He said, imagine going up in a hot air balloon and going up maybe 3,000 feet. And then imagine jumping out of that hot air balloon on a bungee cord. And when the bungee cord goes up and down a couple times, you cut the bungee cord, and now you free fall to the earth until you get maybe 500 feet from the earth, and then you pull your chute and you land. He said at every stage of that, fear was there for him. Going up in the balloon, jumping out, cutting the cord, pulling the chute, and landing. All had fear. He said, but I use fear to change my thinking. He says, and so I create plans around the fear. He says, and when the fear is complete and I don't have any fear, he says, I know the plan is stable. The plan will work for me. Now, he's been doing this for come out of this coronavirus challenge, right? I want to say that I don't have that answer, but I'm not sure anyone really does. There's a lot of factors that are playing into this right now. You've got the World Health Organization that has their agenda. You got Bill Gates with his agenda. You've got Donald Trump's agenda. You got Dr. Fauci with his. All of us are in a place of uncertainty. Even the leaders are uncertain of what the next step is here. So even though we don't like uncertainty, I believe we can use uncertainty as a great tool. I mean, a really great tool. It's that place where we stop knowing everything, as I mentioned earlier in the broadcast. If you can stop your mind just for a few minutes and go to a place of wonder, I wonder how amazing this world can be when we come out of this. I wonder some of the personal restrictions that might be placed on people, and I wonder how I can deal with that. I wonder if I need to step up into speaking the truth in greater ways. I wonder if I need to get involved in a community. Maybe some of you have put your businesses on hold and you're wondering what's going to happen. Well, I suggest you start to wonder in a very positive way. And I tell you that because the mind is the cause of our bondage and the mind is the cause of our liberation. And if you can use your mind to unleash the bondage of worry and stress and fear and concern and blaming and shaming and for what I was really hesitant to be a meditator when I first started, but I was in a place where I was in uncertainty. I didn't know what was going to happen. And I was actually in a lot of pain at the time, mentally, emotionally, physical pain. And I thought, well, it couldn't hurt. So I started to learn how to meditate. And I have to say, in the beginning, it was very difficult. I couldn't sit for more than 10 minutes. I was very anxious. I didn't realize that the mind was anxious and the body as follows the anxiousness of the mind. I didn't know those concepts at the time. But somebody told me at one point in that process is it just allow yourself to start to become the observer of your thoughts. And so I did, and I kind of learned about thoughts along those ways. I learned that we all have lots of thoughts, right? We have, I think the social scientists tell us we have 60,000 thoughts a day. I got a feeling we have a lot more than that, but a lot of thoughts going by, right? And, but I didn't realize that I had the power really to choose those thoughts. It's kind of like what's going by the consciousness of our mind. We have the ability then to change it up like really quickly. How fast could you change your thought? I say you can change it very quickly. There was a man. His name was his name's going out of my mind right now. Anyway, it'll come to me. He was sitting in the hospital, and he was on his deathbed. Doctors gave him 30 days. His name was Lester Levinson. And 30 days to live. He's a very wealthy man. He created a lot of money in real estate. And he was unhappy as could be. And he decided on that deathbed, well, if I'm going to die, I'm going to die happy. So he started asking himself, could he let these thoughts that are floating by his mind go? Could he let go of his resentments, his baggage he was carrying? Now, he did this. This is a process. He kept asking himself, could I let it go? Would I let it go? When? Kind of doing that, right? And eventually it all left him, right? Um, he lived another, I think it was like 30 years after this. He released the fear, he released the stress, he released the anxiety, and he healed. Question comes to mind. If you can release your fear right now, can you heal instantly? I believe you can. I believe that we have the ability within this amazing being of 6 trillion cells that we can use this mind to heal those cells very quickly. When I come back, I'm going to tell you a story of exactly how I did that. And and when you hear it, I think you're going to be like, "Whoa, that's amazing." So I'm going to take a quick break, and I'll be right back. Well, welcome back. This is Candy Foster, your host for the Voices of Courage show. And today we're talking about the courage to find the truth around the coronavirus. Before I get back to the show, I want to give a shout out to one of my sponsors, Women's Wisdom. If you're a woman entrepreneur, you might want to pay attention to this. There's an organization out there, as I mentioned, Women's Wisdom, who's been around since 1991. And what they are doing is they assist business owners to not only grow their businesses, but also to grow their lives. They bring in celebrity speakers to each of their events. And all of their events right now are online. They have powerful networking forums for you as a business owner to get to know other business owners and what they're going through and how they're coming out of this, because we will be out soon. So if you'd like to find out women's wisdom and some what they do, go to womenswisdom.net. Again, womenswisdom.net. Also, I want to mention this. Some of you are really going through some real tough times right now. And there comes a time when you start that down here in the San Diego area. It's called Via Calima. They're in La Costa, California. And they are a renewal center, a residential treatment center just for women. They accept only 6 people at a time. They have individual attention, and they have proven treatment therapies for mind, body, and spirit. If you'd like to find out about them, just give them a call at 760-814-8214, 760-814-8214. That's Via Kalima. And I hope you'll check them out, because I think they'll really be able to help you take your life to the next level. All right. Well, back to my show here, and today I'm talking about the truth, the courage to find the truth about the coronavirus. And the truth has many, which is it feels really uncomfortable. It's a place where you hear it and you go, "Oh, that couldn't possibly be true." And if you don't just dismiss it and go on, then you have an opportunity to maybe explore something new. I really know this is the time for us to explore greater dimensions of ourself, greater dimensions of what is really true for us. And it's a time to get back to what we value the most in our lives. If you haven't ever done value work, I would just say this. There's a couple questions that you can ask yourself. The first question is, what is most important to you? What's most important to you? And the second question is, if you only had 30 days to live, what's most important to you then? Okay. So we have to either reconnect with those and see if we're living from those, or we need to do the work and really discover what are our highest values. What do we stand for? This is a great time to do that. We all have some time to do that. And I see Katie McQuaid there. Yes, Katie, our values are so important to understand. They really are. I've been working as a business strategist and a life coach for 25 plus years. I was blessed to really start in this industry when people didn't even know what a life coach was. In fact, the coaches down here in San Diego were looking for other coaches to work with because we had some understanding of how to make this life coaching work, but we didn't really know. So I formed a group down here in San Diego, and they're still going in San Diego. San Diego's professional and mentoring coaching association down here in San Diego. They're still going. So it came out of the group that I founded way back when. But he does it perfectly. But I know this, that when I get off track, and you probably do the same thing, I start to look at where I got off track, what caused that, and what I would have to believe to get off track. Interesting. So every time something happens in my life for the last 25 years, I've asked a question: what would I have to believe to respond that way or react that way? Or I look around my life, right? I know everything in my room is caused by what I'm thinking, right? So it's the same thing with you. Everything you can see right now, see, taste, touch, feel, came into your mind first. It was a belief first, and then it manifested in the reality. Reacted, I would say to myself, what would I have to believe? Now, that was only the first step. The second step was, what's the new belief I'd like to have? What would I like to replace that with, right? So you might want to consider that. I want to finish my story around releasing, around healing. Okay. So 2 years ago, I was up on a ski slope and skiing with a grandson. It was the end of the day. I was a little tired. Earlier in the day, I was skiing black diamonds and double diamonds, and I had tightened my skis down, my bindings down, so that I wouldn't pop out when I was going down these slopes. Well, I came on this little bunny slope with my grandson, and I had forgotten those were tight, and I hit a patch of ice, and I slipped, and my skis went up in the air, and they thing back. You're going to have surgery, and we give you a 10% chance of that. I said, wow. I had another leg that I'd messed up years earlier, and I remember it was maybe 6 months to heal before I was out of pain. So I went to San Diego. I went to Scripps Hospital, and I went to see my doctor, and he did an MRI on the leg, and he came out and he said, Ken, I don't have good news for you. You got a 30% chance of healing this leg without surgery. And I thought, well, listen, I just went from 10% to 30%. I said, Doc, I'm not going to schedule surgery. I'm going to see if I can heal this on my own. So what did I do? I thought, man, this is a big quest. I'm going to practice a lot of the principles that I've learned over the years. And what I thought I'd do first is talk to my wife. So the first principle for you guys, talk to your wives. They have a lot more intuition than us. So I asked her, I said, what do you think? And she said, I know a person. Her name was Sharon Edmondson in San Diego. And she does something called Bowen work. And Bowen work is energy work. It's working on your energy field. She disconnects the pain from the brain. That's the first thing that she did with me. I went in to see this woman, and within a 45-minute session, I walked out of there with about 75% less pain. Then she gave me a formula to take my swelling down. My leg was swollen twice its size. To take the swelling down. Within 3 days, my swelling was gone. This is working with me, and she's questioning me, how'd you get so far along? And she said, are you an athlete? I say, I am an athlete. I said, well, what can I do? She says, well, you can pretty much do a lot. I said, can I get back on my bike? I don't see why not. 2 weeks I was back on my bike, and those injuries completely healed. Now, did I do what it takes? Is healing a quest? Of course it is. I not only saw the Sharon Edmondson, I saw another lady called, her name was Dale Bach, who also did Reiki on me. I went to physical therapy. I worked on my mind. I visualized it every day, healing every single day. In meditation, I went deep into meditation. I remember visualizing that energy telling you to follow my path. What I want you to do is I want you to just open your mind and realize that there are things going on here that aren't what you think they are. They just aren't. And when you listen to my show, my one of my goals for you, if you pay attention, is to be able to see things that you haven't been able to see before. How cool is that? Okay. So we've got time right now with this virus. And what do we have time to do? Well, we have time to redesign our businesses and our lives. For me, we took my business has been radio for the last 3 years, so this if you haven't listened to Voices of Courage, I encourage you to go and listen to some of our replays at voicesofcourage.us. Again, give us a shout out on Facebook or Instagram or any of the social media sites, because we're all over there. We're in 160 countries, a couple hundred stations. We're 9 networks right now. And, that's interesting because all of that came out of the unknown. Able to interview a woman by the name of Louise Hay. And Louise, at 60 something years old, started a little publishing company called Hay House Publishing, which last time I saw was doing about $100 million a year. And I got to interview her. I went down to her home here in San Diego. And she lived in a penthouse, the top floor, overlooking Balboa Park, which is the largest park in San Diego. And I walked into her home and I noticed her home was completely Zen-like. It was very organized. There weren't a lot of clutter at all. I've noticed that a lot in other people I had interviewed that had a lot of success in their lives. And I thought, better take note of that. Success leaves clues. One of the clues is clean up the clutter if you want to have more success. Just something I practice for most. So I'm interviewing Louise, and I asked Louise, I say, Louise, tell me about goals. What are your goals? And she looked at me like I was kind of crazy. And she said, Ken, I don't set goals. Why am I telling you that? That's how I've developed this program. And that's what has to happen here for us in this time of the coronavirus. Throw out your plans, start to tune in and take it to the next level. Listen, I've got to take a break. But when I come back, what we'll be discussing is how to use the superconscious mind to generate the life of your dreams. I'll be right back. Our show is called The Courage to Find the Truth Around Coronavirus. And gosh, if you've been listening to this segment, what you're really getting is that the truth, it lies within you, right? It doesn't lie necessarily outside of yourself somewhere. That's really my message to you today. And before I get back to the show, I do want to give a shout out to UK Health Radio. Having accurate data readily available as these new viral outbreaks occur is imperative if we want to learn the steps that we need to control this thing, the better equipped we are to inform the public and our communities about what precautions to take and what we need to do to stop this virus from moving into the public realms in a greater. There's a affiliate network that I'm associated with. They are UK Health Radio. They now have the latest coronavirus information at ukhealthradio.com. And there you're going to find daily updates with information from health professionals and the experts, informed experts, that'll help you to understand what's going on. That's ukhealthradio.com. Again, ukhealthradio.com. All right, back to the show, back to what we're talking from the news. Some of you are listening to some of the alternative news from maybe Dr. Shiva or some of the people that are talking about their theories about how this started, what's happening with it. I think it's really important today to really get a different message, tune into something different than the main media, which is creating lots of fear around the nation. I want you to be able to tune into what's really right, what is the truth, right? How do you know that I have 6 nurses in our family? So one of the hospitals that some of the nurses work is Lancaster Valley Hospital up in Lancaster, California. And the Mirror, I believe it was David Muir, may have been some other stations, but they put out a news story that said they had the helicopter flying around the hospital showing, and they put out a news that basically said this young boy died of coronavirus. He was 17, I think, and that now coronavirus is impacting the young. And I thought, gosh, that doesn't sound right. And by the way, the other part was he had no underlying conditions. So I thought about it and didn't think too much about it. About a week later, my sister and I were talking about it. And she had mentioned that some of the nurses in that hospital, it was going around. It was news that this boy had underlying conditions, and it wasn't even coronavirus that caused his fatality. And then about a day later, I noticed a retraction in the LA Times. It wasn't a retraction. It was just the story was that this boy did have underlying conditions. So, and here's the kicker, though. The boy had died a week earlier prior to the newscast, right? So, fake news, I do know it's out there. And you know that too. You know that's true. There's a lot of fake stuff going around. So I think the body is pretty much the last free thing that we have. Nobody's telling me what to put in my body or when to put it in. I've got free choice. And I think that we need to really be cautious of that at this point in time, because there are individuals such as Bill Gates, who does have an agenda that is putting out there on. I saw Ellen DeGeneres the other day. He was on Trevor Noah show the other day. He was talking about how he believes that nobody will come out of this isolation until we have 100% testing in place. So you're going to have to get tested, right, to be able to go back to work. And if you get tested and you show negative to antibodies, there's a possibility you might have to take the vaccination. Now, is that fear? Is that true? No. That's all it is. It's just conjecture. You don't have to judge it as right or wrong or good or bad. It just is what it is. But you do need to know the facts and that's going on out there. And Big Pharma is behind this. So Bill Gates stands to be the first trillionaire if all his companies were to be able to provide the vaccinations for the world. From my information, it looked like India has now banned the people working with Gates because they introduced polio vaccines into India, and I think the number was 43,000 children died as a result. So I think we have to be careful with what we're doing here. Now, listen, you don't have to believe me. I want you to do your own research. Okay, mine's. I got my opinion. You have yours, but go do the research around it. See what's real and see what's not real. Because if you do, what's going to happen is I think your eyes are going to be open and you'll see a new reality. Now, will you be able to accept that reality? Well, it depends on how much you've been programmed by your beliefs, okay? By society, by your school teachers, by your parents, by your friends and peers. Where did your beliefs come from? Why don't you question that? And question, is it true? Remember what I said, when it feels untrue, immediately, the immediate response of the thinking is to you're what you're doing is you are in conflict. And conflict in the body feels kind of conflicted. It feels stressful. It feels how do I feel when I'm conflicted? I might even get angry. Okay. It's intense. It's a feeling. Right. But that's the feeling that you should really pay attention to, because that's the feeling that's you're either gonna break through to the other side, or you're gonna go back to the beliefs that you have. Why not take this time to explore something new and just explore, well, what if it was true? What if it was true? What would that lead you to if you just ask that one question? Or another question I like to put out is, if I was courageous, or if you were courageous, what are the 3 steps to explore this new idea that I would take if I was courageous? A lot of people can't break free of their limitations because they're not willing to explore. And I wrote a book recently. It's called The Courage to Change Everything. It's daily strategies to wisdom. It's a book that helps you to drip essential wisdom on your mind and get your own truth every day. You don't read the book cover to cover, because not everybody's was so busy. Now we have some time, actually. Maybe somebody will read it to cover. Actually, that is true. I did have a friend of mine said he read it cover to cover. But most of us are going to read it every day and maybe journal about it so that we can realize the principles that are in the book, not just have more intellectual information. Unfortunately, a lot of people have a lot of intellectual information and very little realized value, realized knowledge. And for me, I had a lot of that going on about 25 years ago, when I knew a whole bunch, but I really knew nothing because I hadn't realized it in my own life. And, I'm not a guy that has a lot of degrees. I don't have a PhD, I don't have a master's. But what I do is, I believe today I have a PhD in 2 things: humility, because I've been through that path, through so many struggles in my life, and also common sense and humility. And, in this world, what do we need right now? The psychopath epidemic. And it basically says that psychopaths, there's about 1% of the population that are psychopaths. In fact, I want to have them on my show. And they said that basically psychopaths are, people that have no feeling. They strive for attention and power. They strive for money and wealth. They strive for um, being in control. And I thought to myself, wow, that describes a lot of our political leaders and the whole corporate executives to a T. And I haven't got that far in the book, but my point is this: is that there is a lot of individuals out there running in important positions. And, if we're not questioning their decision, if it's not coming from a place of wisdom and courage and love, I think we need to question it always. And I think we need to form our own opinions as a nation, how to protect yourself from this virus. And I haven't forgot, we're going to take that deep dive into the superconscious mind, because that's where the truth lies. I'll be right back. this show and the great content and the insights on Voices of Courage. I encourage you to check a few of our affiliates: UK Health Radio, E360 TV, and Talk Radio New York City. All three networks dedicated